So before we get started, and as we embark on this journey fully, it is important for us to know some guiding principles that will help us to understand better this presentation. These few central themes will provide context in which we can comprehensively understand the concepts. So what these guiding principles will do, if you don't write anything else down, if you don't remember anything else from this presentation, you need to remember these 4 things. This will provide context for what you will see and hear throughout this presentation. It will help you better understand what we will go through. First one, to be sustainable, you have to be strategic. To be sustainable, you have to be strategic. To last over seasons and time, you have to be strategic. Number 2, cultures don't change unless leaders do. Communities, organizations, churches, teams, families, communities, lives don't change unless the people who lead them change. Number 3, to embrace change, leaders must change their mindset. You see, behaviors may initially stay the same, but they will soon thereafter change if a person changes their mind. Because as you think, so will you be. You have to change your mind. And number 4, this is the one that I love the most. You don't have to be in a boardroom. You don't have to be a CEO, have an MBA, or any other graduate degree to understand strategic thinking, or even to engage in strategic thinking, strategic planning, or crisis management, all of which we will talk about today. So if you don't hear anything else I say, if you check out from this point on, these are the 4 things you need to remember. Take a picture, write it down, have it at your leisure. So, as I begin to think about how do I tackle this particular complex presentation, there's so many different elements to it. And there were 3 things that jumped out at me from the title. And that was strategic thinking, strategic planning, and crisis management. There's this complex relationship between strategic thinking, strategic planning, and crisis management. It's complex in the sense that there's many different moving parts that are all interrelated. The stages interrelate and they intersect at different times and in different places. And sometimes that can cause chaos, especially when we are unprepared or unaware of where, at what stage and what phase we're actually operating. But after today, you will be better prepared to be aware of what stage you're in and then actually function through it. And we're going to start at the place where most people fear, but yet most people operate. Most people fear this stage or this phase, but yet this is where most of us operate daily. And that's in a crisis. See, a crisis signifies there's a major, unpredictable event that threatens to harm an organization or its stakeholders. Crises can affect all segments of society. Please understand, crises are not just in churches. Crises are in businesses, crises are in educational institutions, families, governmental entities. No one is safe from a crisis. Even though the definition can vary greatly, there are three elements that are always present in each definition. A, there's a threat to the organization. B, there's some element of surprise. And C, there's usually a short decision time. These three things signify a crisis. Now, crises come in all different forms and shapes. There could be an unexpected transition of a leader, whether that's through death or some other circumstance. There could be bad financial decisions that cost ministries greatly. There's personal scandals, there's lawsuits, legal troubles. These situations, although they're unpredictable, they're not unexpected. We expect, or we should expect, especially when you go through the planning process, crises to occur. And some of these crises and problems can be fixed or averted if we go through the process we're about to learn. We can rebound from this, which we call the redemptive part of the strategic redemptive leadership. And once we learn how to do this, it becomes easier. The funny thing is that this process we're about to learn actually works when there's a crisis and when there's not. So why wait to do this until you have a crisis? Right? So if the same process works whether you have a crisis or not, why would I wait to engage in this until something catastrophic happens? So what should we do? Strategic thinking. What is strategic thinking? Strategic thinking is the process that defines the manner in which people think about, assess, view, and create the future. It's the generation of insights on a consistent basis. Sometimes we're able to think strategically, but it's intermittently. We're not consistently, we have a good idea, we have a good plan for that, but we don't have a comprehensive plan that takes us from one place to the next place consistently, or it takes us over seasons of time. We have a good ride, and then we're down. So it's the generation of insights on a consistent basis. It's about developing strategy, whereas that strategy equals the future. It's integrating decision-making processes today that will benefit you tomorrow. Thinking about tomorrow today. Making decisions that will affect you, impact you today for tomorrow. It requires thinking big. That means what you think. It requires thinking long. How far out you think. And it requires thinking deep, which is why you think. The impact of what you're thinking. So you're thinking big, you're thinking long, and you're thinking deep. So I was reading, and I found that the Wall Street Journal, the American Management Association, CEO Magazine, as well as HR Magazine, reported that the number one most valued skill in leaders today, the number one most valuable skill in leaders today is strategic thinking. But then I kept studying, and I saw a recent study published in Harvard Business Review that showed only 23% of U.S. executives are skilled or strong in strategic thinking. It's the most valued skill, but yet only 23% of executives actually are strong strategic thinkers. Now, when you couple that with the number one reason for going bankrupt and going out of business being bad strategy, then you have a deadly combination. We don't have a lot of good strategic thinkers and then bad strategies. Those are the two reasons why businesses go out of business and they become bankrupt. In today's society, most of us are being required to be more successful with fewer resources. Those resources could include time, talent, capital. And we all have different resources at our disposal. So technically we are strategists, but we just aren't good strategists. So to understand your environment, so I know you're probably thinking, well, what categorize a time and a place where we need to be strategically thinking, right? Okay, see, I anticipate these questions. So when do I need to engage in strategic thinking? If there's a situation or an opportunity where there is a decision that must be made that is largely irreversible. So if you can make a decision and you can immediately or without penalty reverse it, if you cannot reverse it, then that's an opportunity to engage in strategic thinking. So you have a situation where it's largely, you cannot reverse it just like that. It's going to take time, it's going to take money, it's going to take people to reverse it. That is an opportunity to engage in strategic thinking. It requires a behavior commitment. It requires discipline. If it requires for you to be disciplined, how many of you have a budget for yourself? Budgets require discipline. So you have to strategically think, how are we going to do this? See, I went from making, 6 figures to starting my own business. So it required me to have a behavioral commitment. So I couldn't take that opportunity lightly. I had to really sit down and think about, how am I going to do this? If it requires you to be disciplined and commit to it, that's an opportunity to engage in strategic thinking. If there's going to be a tangible loss and or gain, if you're going to lose and or gain something physically, you're going to be able to feel that gain or feel that loss. You need to be looking at it strategically. If there's an impact to others, if it's going to affect your family, your members, your colleagues, your team, you need to engage in strategic thinking. If it's holistic, if there's a cause and effect, and if there's a future position, but your decision must be made today, then that is how and when you should engage in strategic thinking. So, when all of these things are present, or most of them are present, you need to say, check, 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 check. I need to stop, and I need to begin to think strategically on how we are to move forward. So, of course, this is when you do it. Now, what is a strategic thinker to me? I'm glad you asked. Got that too. So I like to categorize strategic thinkers into 4 categories. Now again, we're not looking at our neighbor, we're not talking to them, we're looking at ourselves. So you should be thinking, where do I fall on this spectrum of thinkers? Type 1 thinker. This is a person who is really laid back. They're comfortable in what they don't know. Not comfortable in what they do know. So they're the one who really doesn't contribute any insight when conversations are going on. So when you're in your meetings and this is the person who's checked out, this is the person that's doodling on the pad, this is the person who is not giving any insight to the conversation, anything relevant at that. That's a type 1 thinker. Then there's type 2. This person is just a tad bit more participatory, but not that much. They skim the surface of the issue. they're going to be the first one to point out, and probably quite loudly, that there's a problem. We got a problem, Bishop, we got a problem, here's the problem, but they're not going to offer you any solution. They can be loud, point it out, but they're not going to offer any type of solution to how we're going to get it done. Then you have type 3. Type 3 thinker, when equipped with the right environment and the right tools, they can offer strategic insights. But for them to be productive and give what's needed to the organization or the team, their environments must be conducive to strategic thinking. And like we said before, there's not many environments that are conducive to producing good dialogue. The environment for strategic thinking to take place that invites people to give their insights. So unless the environment is conducive to that, this person won't be able to give you strategic insights. Then there's type 4. These people can contribute insights and impactful conversation and discussion on a consistent and regular basis. They don't need the right people. They don't need the right tools. They don't need the right environment. They're just designed to think and engage in strategic thinking. But only 3 out of 10 people actually operate at this level. See, this group learns to utilize their resources effectively. They learn to utilize their time, their talent, their capital better than everyone else around them. This group, whatever team they're part of, whatever business they run, whatever church they're attached to, usually will be successful and effective. So let me give you an example. Let me have this group right here. Miss Bam, yellow. 1. Can you stand up for me? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can you stand up for me? No. Right there. Yes, ma'am. 8, 9. Perhaps blue shirts. 9, 10. Bracelet, please. Thank you. 10. That's 10 people. Now you 3 right here remain standing, and you 7 here. Sit down. That was 10 people on your team. That's how many in the room that you have that strategically thinks. Now think about your meetings. Think about your staff tables. Think about your families. 3 people out of the 10 that were standing up actually strategically think. So additional characteristics of strategic thinkers or thinkers. Type 1s and type 2 are people that we call conventional thinkers or non-strategic thinkers. These individuals usually are reactive. They have to wait to be told what to do. They're not going to take any initiative. They're going to wait for you to tell them what they need to do. They typically work without input from others, so they're isolated when they're working. They focus on the cost. So they're unwilling to make any investment now for a long-term result. They're cautious. They want to maintain the status quo. They don't want anything to change. Is everything, whatever level they're operating at, that's fine with them. They don't want to produce more, they don't want to gain more, they want to stay right where they are. They're unable to prioritize. And I work with a lot of different companies, organizations, moving millions of dollars from small to large. And I can tell you, if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. Please understand, you can have millions and millions of ideas, but if everything is important, then nothing is important. They're inflexible. They're willing to alter their plans. They want to do it like they've always done it. You know, it ain't broke, let's not fix it, you know, let's not fix it. But they broke, but okay. They're satisfied. They're uninterested in learning new things. They don't seek new ideas, and when the opportunity presents itself to do something new, to do something innovative, they shy away from it. And they're predictable. You know what time they're gonna get to work. You know how much work they're gonna do. You know how long they're gonna go to lunch, and you know what time they're gonna go home. These are your conventional thinkers, your non-strategic thinkers. And then types 3 and 4, they're future-based. They anticipate change. They look past the trends. They're curious. They're interested in what's going on around them. So don't get mad at the people that's always wanting to know what's going on. Sometimes they're not nosy. They're trying to figure out how they can help. So it may not concern them of what's going on over here, but their mind is thinking. They've thought of a plan long before, and they just want to present it to you sometimes. They're good stewards of resources. They're willing to put in the extra time today or the extra money today because they understand the result tomorrow. They're risk takers. They're risk takers. They are calculated risk takers. There's a difference. There are some people that's just like, okay, I woke up this morning, I'm gonna jump off this stage. No, I woke up and I saw there's actually something down there. So I know if I measure it right, I can land right there. I'll take the risk to do that. They're risk takers. They understand urgency and importance, prioritizing. They understand this is urgent, this is important, we can deal with this later. They're able to do that. They're able to adjust and modify their approach based on the circumstances. That doesn't mean they tossed in the wind. That does not mean that. But when things present themselves, when crises come, they're able to adjust. They're lifelong learners. They're willing to sit in environments like this and be open to growth and change. And they're creative. They think outside of the box. So these are some of the characteristics of the different types of thinkers. So, how do you become a strategic thinker? Remember I told you, I do this in secular or corporate environments, but all of these concepts are really biblical. If any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. So how do you become a strategic thinker? You may be sitting here like, I'm more this than I am that, but I desire to be a strategic thinker. Ask God. He's the giver of wisdom. That's where you start. Everything else you can learn. Because remember, strategic thinking is a skill, it's not a tool. It's a skill, it's not a tool. You have to practice it. You have to be in environments that are conducive for you to learn how to do it and how to do it effectively. So how to become a strategic thinker? You study your internal and external environments. You study your internal and external environments. You need to know what's going on around you. You're making observations and you're seeking the trends that are happening. You're not waiting for the trends to come to you. You're looking at what's going on. You're looking at what's going on at other churches or in your area, in this country, in your region. You're looking what's going on not only in church, but in our political landscapes, in our economic times, in the businesses. Remember, to be sustainable, you have to be strategic. So you have to look and a lot of time partner with entities that are outside of church. And I know we're going to have a dynamic presentation on strategic partnerships. So you have to be able to study those environments. You have to ask questions and seek the answers. One of the most uncomfortable things in forums like this, in board meetings, church meetings, staff meetings, city council meetings, is a question. Why is a question so uncomfortable? You know, I seem to think, it's me, all I do all day is think. One is that we probably don't know the answer. Truthfully. Hey, it's okay. It's okay not to know the answers. It really is. I really don't know. Let me research that further. Or perhaps we just ego-based. How dare you ask me a question? Because we can get like that. I don't need to answer to you. Or a question may expose ulterior motives. All of that still dealing with you. Remember, we're looking at ourselves. We're not looking at anybody else. But questions are healthy. Questions are productive. Questions are biblical. Moses, relationship with Jesus, went deeper because of a question, right? What did he say? He asked him, what should we call you? What is your name? And Jesus answered, right? That's what he did. He asked him in the book of Habakkuk. Series of questions, dialogue, conversations going on between Habakkuk. I'm sorry, did I say Jesus? I mean God for Moses. Sorry, that was my bad. God answered. And Habakkuk, God answered in that dialogue. He kept asking those questions. And he waited patiently and sometimes with dread for those answers. Then, of course, I seem to think that the person that loved questions the most was Jesus. Because he said in Matthew 7 and 7 and 8, ask and you will receive. He invited questions. He wanted to be asked questions. He wanted to give answers. He wanted individuals to seek. So questions are healthy. Questions are important. Questions have to be in strategic environments because you want to produce the best dialogue. You want to produce the best plan. And you can only do that with asking questions and seeking answers. You have to embrace conflict. I know you're thinking, I don't want conflict in my church. But it's not negative conflict. It's the difference of opinion. We have different backgrounds. We have different experiences. We serve in different areas. So sometimes we're not going to see things the same way. But if you tell me what you see, I tell you what I see, and we look for the common ground. We don't get stuck in the conflict. We embrace it. Don't reject it. Most of the time, why conflicts, they fester is because you're rejecting it. Give them the opportunity to say what they feel. Give them the opportunity, because most times when the spotlight on you, you shy away from it anyway. But embrace it, because the best dialogue is produced when I'm able to share with you and you're able to share with me and we're able to hear each other. Surround yourself with a diverse group of people. If everybody looks like you, thinks like you, have your same experiences, you're going to get the same results. I am so encouraged by the fact that Bishop Ellis and Bishop Guns invited me. Now, despite what my grandma said, because she saw me on the flyer with Bishop Ellis and she saw me on the flyer with Bishop Tameka, Pastor Newman, she thought I was preaching. Grandma, I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm doing, Grandma, but thank you for making her excited. She's 94 years old and she called me, I saw you on that flight. She lives 6 hours away from me. Well, Grandma, where you got it? But they invited me. I'm a consultant. I'm a believer that's under this great leadership. But my experience is coming from multimedia organizations and governmental entities that are mostly outside of the church. And my thought is, if I can impact them and make them money, I sure can make the people of God money. So you surround yourself with a diverse group of people. And you make dedicated time for thinking. Dedicated time for thinking. Because when you try to think in the middle of a crisis, you're going to go deeper in your crisis. If you see yourself approaching that negative line and they keep getting bigger, you should have thought about that 6 months ago. You have to make dedicated time for thinking. Remember, we have to train ourselves to focus. We have to practice the skill. Strategic thinking is a skill. It's not a tool. You can't pick it up and use it and put it back down. You have to cultivate that. And then you step away sometimes. Sometimes you're in the thick of it and you just can't seem to get yourself together. Everything looks like it's running together. You're exhausted. Your mind can't work. Step away sometimes. Step away. Everybody, we're gonna just chill out for a minute. We're gonna take this day by day, and then we can come back refreshed and renewed. Strategic thinking leads to strategic decisions that prompts strategic planning, which yields action and requires review. Strategic thinking leads to strategic decisions that prompts strategic planning, which yields action and requires review. So after we've gone through the strategic thinking and we have the people that we need on our team, we understand that we need a strategy for what we're trying to do. We can now move to strategic planning. Strategic planning is a process of defining a strategy that will yield desirable results, and it encompasses deliberate decisions. Not decisions that just happen, not decisions that need to be made on the fly, but they are intentional decisions that align the resources in pursuing this strategy. Deliberate decisions that align your resources. This process will show you where you hope to go, what you hope to do, how you hope to get there. It's a strategic planning process. So it's not anything that you have right now, today. It's what you hope to be and where you hope to achieve. It's a faith expression of your vision and your mission. So God is giving you the vision and He's giving you the mission. He said, this is what you should have. This is where you should be. This is what it should look like. So now He's about to equip you with how do you put that faith to it. Because we need faith. Like non-believers need facts. And soon our faith will turn to facts. Yeah. So a strategic plan then becomes that written document. It's the results from your strategic planning process. It's your faith written down. And we all know. Write the vision, right? Write the vision, make it plain. It's not only for you, it's for others. Because what they're going to see is God show up, because they're going to get the facts. When you go to a bank, they're going to want to see your plan. They're going to want to know what you're doing. When you're talking to a group of investors, they're going to want to know what you're doing. They're going to see what you're showing them faith. But soon thereafter, they're going to see facts through your plan. So how do you do a strategic planning process? Bishop alluded to it earlier that our church went through this process, and it was rough. It was rough. So you got to pick up some sheets, and you got to look at some things, And you got to know what's going on. So you start with assessment. You assess your internal and external environment. You determine where you are currently. You determine what's going on around you. Not just where you are in your neighborhood and in your community and even in your city, because we're here to impact the world. We're here to transform the world. We're here to transform policy and legislation and education and the social justice system and the criminal justice system. We're here to impact that, transform that. So we need to be assessing it all. Then we need to begin to strategize and identify where we want to go. We need to be specific with that. Too many times our targets are they're lofty, but can't nobody understand them. They don't really know what it is. So your strategy helps clarify that. Next thing in that strategic planning process is that you actually plan. You set the goals. You set the objectives, the responsibilities, and the timeline. You make sure that they are attainable and they're measurable. If you can't measure them, and in my field, if they're not measurable, they can't be done. Now, we're going to expect God to show up and He's going to exceed our expectations. But we're going to have Him there. So He knows, God, you can't do no less than this right here. You can do a whole bunch more, but this is what we expect. We making it known to Him. You implement it. You do what you said you were going to do, the way you said you were going to do it. Now, you can be inflexible, remember. It's not set in stone. This is a plan. This is what you hope to do. It's not what you verbatim, because things happen. We understand. We talked about crisis management, but at least we have a plan to be able to guide us. And then you evaluate. That's a hard part, because you have to review where you are. And sometimes you're not where you want to be, and sometimes you're not where you ought to be. But you have to evaluate, so review your progress and make adjustments when you get off track. So why is this important? Why is strategic planning important? We went from thinking to planning, but why is this part so important? Because it captures vision. It allows you to really delve into what God is saying to you and pouring out to you. What He's showing you, it captures that for you. It brings it from out here to in here, to here, to here. It provides direction for you. It shows you where you are to go. It becomes that roadmap for you to follow. So if you said, I want to lose 50 pounds, that's my strategic plan, my goal. Then you know when your homegirl, your homeboy call and say, let's go out here at 11 o'clock at night and get this fried chicken. That ain't part of my plan. That ain't the map I'm supposed to be following. So you understand that this is my goal. This provides direction, and it assists you in making decisions. It lets you know that I can't go at 11 o'clock at night to go get fried chicken. I'm trying to lose this. It helps you make decisions. It helps you know that I can't spend money on this today because we're trying to do that tomorrow. It lets you know that, you know what? I love you, Sister Johnson, but we need someone who can, do these books a little bit better. Just a little bit better. We about to be dealing with $10 million, and we love you and you've done well. You have. We appreciate you. But our plan says that we need to be able to count millions of dollars and do investments and see how they're going to come back to us. And I don't know if you know stocks, but it's okay, because we got somewhere else for you to go. Or maybe we don't, but we'll buy you something. Okay? It's all right. God loves us. He does. It shows you progress. That's why it's important. You gotta see it. At some point, you be like, I'm faithful, Lord, I'm gonna keep walking, but can you show me something? Let me know I'm going in the right direction. So it shows you progress. It communicates your strategy to others. It shows everybody else what you're doing and why you're saying what you're saying. It ain't personal. But this is where we go. And it shows you who ain't going where you're going. You know, it communicates what you're doing, but it shows you we can't use them in this season. To be sustainable, you have to be strategic. We got to realign them somewhere else. But it communicates that strategy to everybody else. And then it helps to avoid or at least minimize crisis. It helps you to avoid crisis. Again, it's unpredictable. It's not unexpected. We expect things are going to happen, but at least we can minimize them, or at least avoid them altogether. So, you know, we started the presentation in crisis management. I told you the place we fear most is actually where we actually operate the most. We're crisis management driven. Something has to be going on for us to feel like we're affected. There has to be some dire situation. We gotta need more money every year. Every year there's a shortfall. Every year? How many times you got to bump your head to know that that's there? Every year? Oh, okay. So again, the same process works, whether crisis or not. So why go through the crisis to utilize the process? Do the process without needing the crisis. I promise you to bless your life. So how does it help me? It helps movement. That hasty decision making, because if you make a decision in a crisis, I promise you're going to go deeper in that crisis. It helps movement. It makes you stop when you start thinking, I need to do the strategic thinking and the strategic planning process. It exposes your problem or your weak area. It identifies the leak. Where is the leak occurring? It exposes it. Because going through this process, you're now thinking, everybody's looking at it. Everybody's attention is on it. What's going on here? Where is the problem? It identifies that, exposes it, pulls the cover off of it. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's process, sometimes we just shouldn't be doing that. Sorry, it's going to expose it all. It causes group focus. Everybody on the team need to be looking at this. This is what we need to be doing. Remember, cultures don't change unless who change? Leaders. Cultures don't change unless leaders change. Families don't change, churches don't change, teams don't change unless leaders change. It identifies the permanent team members. Who do we need on this team to last over a season in time, to be strategic? Who do we need? How many type ones do we need with people that aren't giving us anything but doodle pads? I bet you connect out the notes at the end of each session, you'll identify some people that are not pertinent team members. Let me see what you wrote down. Let me see your notes. Ask that at your next team meeting. Okay. Some of y'all done quit already. It also shows you that you don't have to throw away the plan. You just make adjustments. So many times, oh, this ain't working, I ain't doing that. You done threw away the baby with the bathwater. No, things happen. Look at that place where there is in the plan and make adjustments so that you can get back on track and be productive, be effective, be successful. And then you become more attentive. It means you gotta look, you gotta watch. You gotta become focused on what's going on. This is what this causes you to do. It helps you because now you weren't paying attention maybe before. Now you're becoming more attentive on what's going on and more importantly, how you can avoid it. So you're saying, okay, Tameka, that sounds really good. I hear all that you're saying. You know, you sound like that might be right. But does this really work? Remember, I left a high-paying job, not really knowing if this thing was gonna work out. Believing God that you're gonna supply all my family's needs. So I had to believe that this stuff that I'm saying, all these loans that I'm paying back to these people for these degrees, all this experience I done went through on these people's jobs, that this stuff don't work, that there's something really to it. Does it really work? It works. Within 3.5 years working with a faith-based ministry who went through their own level of crisis, you know, lawsuits and turnovers and a lot of different things. But they knew something was greater that they needed to accomplish. They knew something was there. So they trusted the process. They trusted me to lead them in that process. I'm thankful for it. Because within 3.5 years, they have actually written. You can pull it up, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can look at it, you can measure them. They have a 5-year strategic vision plan. They have over $200,000 of new funding. This is not funding that was there. This is new money that was not there of new funding in their organization. They have 4 new programs that further their mission. They clarified their mission within this process. And then they align their resources and their programs to match that mission. So they have 4 new programs, 2 of which are pilot programs, meaning they thought it up. Somebody trusted them to be able to bring it to pass to help the community. And they have 1 new nonprofit that's poised to bring in recurring revenues. So they went outside of the tithe and the offerings and the seeds to be able to understand where does the rain fall? Where is it? Where's opportunity for us to tap into that? Within 3.5 years, going through this process, it's not easy, and it's sometimes it's long, and sometimes it's hard, but it's possible, and it's necessary. Example 2, brand new organization. They were rolling. They went in. They had probably about 3 or 4 actual full processes with the strategic thinking and a little bit of crisis management. But within 10 years, nonprofit organization. It's a social services organization. When they started, all they did was behavioral health, group therapy. That's all they did. But within 10 years, they acquired over $50 million of federal, state, and local funding. Over $50 million. It's a lot of money. They served over 50,000 individuals and families over that time period. They became a national leader in their field of service, as designated by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, a national leader. They developed an accredited school, accredited meaning Department of Education, accredited school, Department of Education. They developed that. They started with a behavioral health program. Their accredited school is in solar panels. How do you go from that? They have 4 for-profit businesses and numerous new programs. So does it work? It works. If you're willing to invest in it, believe in it, and walk it out. So I want you to indulge me once again. Close your eyes. Begin to breathe slowly. Inhale, exhale, very slowly. allowing what we heard and learned today to just marinate in your spirit, in your mind, thinking only of the terms or the questions that may have piqued your interest as you continue to breathe in and out slowly with your eyes closed, listening to only me and allowing these thoughts to go in your mind. Now figure it out for yourself, my friend. You've all that the greatest of men have had. 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes, and a brain to use if you would be wise. With this equipment, they all began. So start for the top and say, I can. Look them over, the wise and great. They take their food from a common plate. And similar knives and forks they use. With similar laces, they tie their shoes. The world considers them brave and smart, but you've all they had when they made their start. You can triumph and come to skill. You can be great if only you will. You're well equipped for what fight you choose. You have legs and arms and a brain to use. And the man who has risen, great deeds to do, began his life with no more than you. You are the handicap you must face. You are the one who must choose your place. You must say where you want to go, how much you will study the truth to know. God has equipped you for life, but He lets you decide what you want to be. Courage must come from the soul within. The man must furnish the will to win. So figure it out for yourself, my lad. You were born with all that the great have had. With your equipment, they all began. Get hold of yourself and say, I can. Open your eyes. I thank you for your time. I thank you, Bishop Ellis and Bishop Gunn, for having me, and I appreciate it.
Come on, we can do much better than that.